There's a disease running out of control in the Western world today. In the UK alone, it affects more than 3 million people. It's getting worse, and no one seems to know why. It's frightening, it's dangerous, and every year it kills hundreds of people.
You do have a strong feeling that you're going to die if you can't catch your breath. And you've got to try and not panic, because if you panic, it's worse for yourself.
The cost of treating asthma is enormous and growing, and it's becoming clear both inside and outside the medical profession that just reaching for more and more inhalers is not going to solve the problem.
The evidence is that Ventolin is overused. You can take a tonne of Ventolin today and it doesn't make your asthma any better tomorrow.
Recently, an apparently bizarre new treatment called the Buteyko method has arrived in Britain. Its proponents claim that asthma is caused by over-breathing, so the answer's simple. You improve your asthma by learning to breathe less.
If the theory is true, it is going to completely change the way that we think about asthmatics and possibly some other conditions as well.
But is the theory true? Could breathing alone hold the key to asthma? In this programme, we'll be putting Buteyko to the test. Sasha Stalmatsky has come to Britain from Russia to prove it can be done. His experience with asthma sufferers over the years leads him to make some extraordinary claims.
I can teach you how to stay away from hospitals forever. You see? You see?
The Buteyko method was developed in Russia by a leading physiologist, Professor Konstantin Buteyko. After initial skepticism, the technique's been used extensively there for the last 15 years. Now, news of the Buteyko method is beginning to spread. Since it was first introduced into Britain 2 or 3 years ago, several hundred people have forked out £300 apiece to learn this method. Anecdotally, it seems that large numbers of them are doing rather well. In fact, I interviewed several of them myself for a series I was writing for a Scottish newspaper. I was increasingly surprised at how many of them seemed to be feeling better, reduced medication, feeling in control of their asthma. Substantial returns, it seemed, on a ridiculously simple idea. And ridiculous is exactly what most doctors think it is. One of the doubters is Professor Bill McNee, a specialist in respiratory medicine here at Edinburgh's Royal Infirmary. He's sceptical, but prepared to ask some of his most severe asthma patients if they'd like to try it out. One in particular needs help.
Well, she's one of the asthmatics who's extremely well known to all of the consultants within our ward because she has recurrent admissions into hospital and often severe worsening of her condition which causes her to come into hospital. So she's amongst the most severe of our asthmatic population.
The patient is Donna Gowrie. Virtually crippled by her disease and unable to work for the last 8 years, she's at the end of the road of conventional medicine.
Well, I do have a lot of hospital admissions. From March alone this year, I've been in 6 times. And then I have times where I don't go in. I try and treat myself at home. But I do take an awful lot of medication.
This medication rules Donna Gowrie's life. Her daily drug intake is immense, and she worries about side effects.
The worst one for myself was the weight gain. I put on so much weight, and I was never used to being heavy. It caused more health problems. At one time I was so heavy I could hardly walk. And I was then getting married, decided to go on a diet. I've now lost 10.5 stone, which has caused the stomach problems. I now don't have a very good appetite, which has more or less made me anorexic.
The second patient Professor McNee offered us was self-employed plumber Campbell Stewart.
He's a patient who has chronic asthma, and by that we probably mean he has chronic inflammation in his air tubes and has had a lot of difficulty over the last few months trying to control his asthma.
The last 3-4 weeks at work, I've been getting out of the car, walking 10, 20 yards and really being breathless, coughing, you know, and spitting up phlegm and that.
It's interesting, when he first came to see me, he told me he was extremely busy at work and he really didn't have time for asthma. So I had to better do something rather quickly. And it's interesting that over the last couple of years, he's kind of lost that view, and each time I see him, he really is now calling out for some sort of help. So it's obviously a change in attitude. You understand this?
5 years ago, I was in the city hospital with Dr. Buteyko, and he says, stop smoking. And the course of tablets I'm going to give you, inhalers and everything, you'll be able to walk around the golf course in 2 or 3 years' time. And that's still happened.
Like Donna, Campbell agreed to undergo a course of Buteyko training, although Bill McNee made it clear he wasn't expecting much.
I remain, even having read a couple of books about it, extremely sceptical. I can't really think of a mechanism that this technique would, how this would help Mr. Stewart.
But if you were to observe him running around a golf course, you'd be mildly impressed?
Mild is not the word I would use. I would be impressed.
Our test will take place at this Edinburgh hotel. The task is to make our patient significantly better in just 5 days. As the cameras home in for the first session, Sasha Stelmatsky is having a last chat with his mentor in Russia, Professor Buteyko. 10 a.m., Monday the 15th of December. Donna and Campbell are joined by a third patient from the Royal Infirmary, 17-year-old Katie Hegarty, another extremely severe asthmatic. Bill McNee has also come along to hear Sasha launch his opening salvo.
Official medicine doesn't know the cause of asthma. And because they don't know the cause of asthma, they treat symptoms of asthma. You see what I mean? So what Professor Buteyko discovered, that he discovered the main cause of asthma, which is overbreathing or hyperventilation. Right. We can measure your hyperventilation. There is a simple test. Look at that. The breath in, this is breath out. After normal breath out, you hold your breath. I will time you, and in seconds we'll see what we've got. So let's take together. Normal breath in through your nose. Donna, be careful not to start coughing.
Early on, Sasha starts teaching them how to extend the time they can hold their breath. This is central to the Buteyko technique.
10, 11. Stop when it's difficult.
It all looks rather strange, but it does have a scientific rationale. Every time we breathe out, we blow off carbon dioxide. But carbon dioxide is not just a waste gas. We need a certain level of it in our blood for healthy living. Chronic overbreathing or hyperventilation leads to excessive loss of carbon dioxide, and that can bring a number of problems, including, the Buteyko people say, asthma. The narrowing of the bronchial tubes, which occurs during an asthma attack and which causes wheezing and a feeling of breathlessness, is, they say, the body's attempts to stop you blowing off essential carbon dioxide. If you stop hyperventilating, carbon dioxide levels will rise and the bronchi re-expand naturally.
You see, the idea is, when you hold your breath, you increase carbon dioxide, right? Because you don't lose it. Carbon dioxide opens your airways and brings more oxygen in. That's what you should know. That's what I explained. Doctor, you agree with that?
Sorry, in the hyperventilation, you have less oxygen. If I made CO2, carbon dioxide in this room high at the
Professor McNee likes neither the theory nor what the theory implies. Sasha claims your airways narrow because the body wants to hold on to carbon dioxide. If you now use drugs to open the airways, then you'll relieve immediate symptoms, but not the underlying problem. In the long run, so the theory goes, bronchodilating drugs could make your asthma worse, particularly if you're getting large doses via nebulizers. The other commonly used drugs, steroids, are considered preferable because they are successfully combating inflammation, though the aim is to reduce them too in time. So, Sasha's final claim is that people who stick to Buteyko just don't need as many drugs.
These results never seen in medicine. It's a routine for me to show these results all the time. But you have to listen to me. If you have your ideas, go with your ideas to your doctors, spend another 20 years and then come back. You know? Let's not waste the time for stupid arguments. Do what I say. Do what Professor Buteyko said. You see what I mean?
At the end of the day, Professor McNee seems less than convinced.
Well, I still have the same belief that there are a proportion of asthmatics who obviously overbreathe, and such a technique of changing breathing patterns may help these asthmatics. But the basis, the theoretical basis for this technique, I think, is unfounded at the moment, as far as I can see from what I've heard this morning.
+1.
Meanwhile, Sasha is studying Donna's drug regime. He wants to keep the steroids up until her breathing improves. But Donna takes some persuading.
I'm not happy to put them back up to 60.
Take it for a couple of days. When you feel better, we'll reduce it.
I feel better now. I feel all right. I'm
No,
40.
no, you not feel all right. You used 3 nebulizers this morning. You use this one again, you know? You see what I mean? Can you explain to me your concerns about prednisone? If I say it's the best medication, why are you scared about that?
Just all the side effects with them. They're terrible.
I've told you the biggest side effects from nebulizer. Donna, either you want to do it or you go to your specialist and do it with him, you know? You know, don't argue with me. I'm not going to waste my time with you. You see? Take it or leave it. That's what I'm saying. You know? Take it or leave it.
Well, truthfully, I don't like the way he talks to you and he approaches you. It's like he's dictating to you.
He's very domineering. I mean, I don't think he's prepared to listen to, let's say, our points of view.
We've just got to try and see what the breathing does, but personally, I can't see breathing this way is going to stop an asthma attack.
7 p.m, Wednesday the 17th of December. Our patients are now halfway through their course, and Sasha's looking for an improvement in the length of time they can hold their breath, their pause as he calls it, which will correspond to an improvement in their asthma symptoms. Donna and Campbell are doing their best. But the 17-year-old, Katie Hegarty, has dropped out.
Well, the poor girl, she missed her chance. That's why. If she won't come back, and so she's got only one choice then: go back on this medication, go back on this traditional treatment, which never can get rid of her asthma. That's her problem.
She stopped, as I understand it, because she found you too rude and dictatorial.
Ah, well, I am, because I have just 5 days, and I need to teach patients what to do. And yeah, I'm not a pleasant person. That's right. Yeah.
Another young asthmatic, 15-year-old Alexis O'Doyne, though not a patient of Professor McNee's, has now joined the course. She's soon doing well, as is Campbell, who's steadily lengthening his pause and reducing his air intake. But Donna is in trouble.
Donna, you know what to do when you're under stress. Just hold your breath straight away.
She's had 2 nights without sleep and been feeling dreadful. Now she's falling behind.
Push yourself a little bit. Ah, okay. How many?
55. My whole body's just, it's aching. And I'm exhausted.
Yeah, of course she's exhausted and she's learning, and it's quite a difficult technique. But it's just initial stage problems.
In the middle of the course, there's suddenly a phone call from Professor McNee. He's heard that Donna is unwell today, and he's worried about her. He wants to close the whole thing down.
I understand absolutely what you're saying. Well, it would certainly be very helpful if you could let it go just to the end of the week. See where we are there.
Meanwhile, inside the training room, the exercises continue.
It's ready, 20 seconds. You're doing very well. You can do your best shot. 25, 26.
Donna is struggling on. And for the first time, she seems to be making some progress.
I've been wheeze-free.
You've been wheeze-free?
Not totally,
Yeah.
but a lot better than I've been for weeks. So I think the breathing through the nose is helping.
And Donna, okay, she has aching pain here and there, had sleepless night, but she feels much better. She uses less medication, her breathing is better, her asthma is better.
I've just had Dr. McNee on the phone there, and he says he's deeply concerned because he's responsible for these patients.
Yeah.
He's offered them to us for this trial.
Yeah.
And yet he says, if you're saying, you know, don't use your nebulizer, for instance, he says,
Yes.
well, he said, I've seen patients die from asthma. This is a huge responsibility, and you're just saying, "Puh, don't use a nebulizer, puh, put up the steroids." He's worried.
People die not because they don't use nebulizers. They die because of overdose of nebulizers and underdose of steroids. That's why they die.
With Professor McNee having given his reluctant permission for the course to continue, the patients go home for the night. Here they carry on the exercises they've been taught in class and tape their mouths during sleep. This is to ensure that they continue to breathe only through their nose, a vital rule of Buteyko's. It's all part of trying to stop them unconsciously hyperventilating. 2 more days to go. 9:50 a.m., Friday the 19th of December. The patients are starting to arrive for the final day of the course.
And then,
How are you doing?
fine.
I hear you had a night out last night.
Yes. I didn't stay too late. But about 10 minutes lunch.
Tony, you're looking great, I have to say.
I'm feeling great.
Are you?
I've got a new lease of life.
I know you're not a different person. I can't believe it. Look at her. Eyes are spotted. Are you her husband?
Yeah.
Hello, pleased to meet you. I'm Sally. Hi. When was the last time you saw her like that?
Many years ago.
Yeah.
Not often anyway. Takes a change getting up without her coughing all morning.
Are you not coughing as much at home?
Did we cough during the night?
Is that right? And are you,
He makes more noise than me breathing. He's keeping me awake.
that's wonderful.
Take a small breath in, please. Breathe out. Hold.
Professor McNee has returned to watch this last session. It's soon obvious that there's been a big improvement in everyone's breath-holding pauses.
Thank you. 25. 30. 33. Yep. 35. Yes. Clear breath. 40. 45. 50. 55. 60. Hold back your breath straight away. Yeah. You still. Yeah. How many?
90.
Oh, good girl. Great. Yeah. Well, you need eventually 120, and that's it, you know. Yeah. In a couple of weeks, you'll do it easily.
There must be something in it, yeah. Because it's working on us. Working on me and Donna and the young girl as well, you know, Alexa. The improvement's just been phenomenal.
I don't know, I think it's just the relief the last few mornings of waking up. No coughing, no wheezing, no trying to get from one place to another and being breathless. It's just a great feeling getting up in the morning and being able to breathe.
Just before I came, I'd been off school a week and a half with asthma because I had got bronchitis and I couldn't breathe properly. And I was on a lot of medication, but then I came here and it's got better.
I've cut out my nebulizer. I've only had nebulizer twice this week, instead of 3 times a day.
I've not used any medications yet. I've cut down on everything. I've not used anything. And I feel I don't wheeze anymore. At the moment, I'm not wheezing.
What do you think? What do you attribute all of this to?
Keep my mouth closed.
Keeping your mouth closed. Not talking. Oh, right. Okay.
Breathing through my nose.
Right. I think the point is that they seem to feel they're better. And I suppose I have to have an explanation as to why they might be better. And I still have the original explanation that perhaps we are underestimating the number of asthmatics who do overbreathe chronically. And perhaps Donna is one of these.
This professor knows these patients very well. He claimed that they were in the end of the road, that he can't improve them, he can't give them very minimal improvement.
I'm still sceptical as to whether this technique has anything new to add to other techniques which are being employed at the moment for people who overbreathe.
Well, I understand he doesn't believe me, possibly, because I think he can't believe his eyes. Then, of course, he can't believe my words.
And so, although it would be exciting to know that you can improve patients' symptoms, I think that would be a very good thing and would be some news, I still have difficulty with the extension beyond that point of saying that this is the cause of asthma, which is what I've heard this week, and that this is going to be the cure of asthma.
But again, if he needs scientific explanation, why doesn't he propose a scientific trial? That's the only accepted way in the scientific world to recognize something or to dismiss.
The only scientific trial that has been conducted outside Russia was done here in Brisbane, Australia in 1994. Out of 2 matched groups of asthmatics, one took part in a Buteyko course, the other had conventional breathing exercises under medical supervision. Leading the Buteyko group was Tess Graham.
I've worked as a physiotherapist for 20 years, and a lot of that was with asthmatics in hospital. There's just nothing to compare to the effects that we can get with this therapy.
The medical expert in charge of the trial was Professor Charles Mitchell. He's still not fully convinced.
The evidence is that the people that go through the Buteyko program, by and large, feel they're a lot better. They feel they're a lot better. But when you come down to objective tests, tests of breathing capacity, how much air they can blow out in the first second, they are no better.
But that lung function test has problems because it is a test that involves hyperventilating, and which actually can constrict the airway. So the test itself can produce the asthmatic symptoms.
If lung capacity measurements were disappointing, other figures were not. After 3 months, the Buteyko group showed a 90% reduction in the use of bronchodilator drugs and a 49% reduction in steroids, compared with 0 progress in the non-Buteyko group. So why has official research stopped?
I think there are a number of studies that could be done. I've run my race with Buteyko, I think, and there are others that should now take it up. But there are a number of studies that should be done.
In spite of Professor Mitchell's guarded interest, there are no plans to fund any further Australian studies on the Buteyko method. In the light of such impressive results, why should this be?
A lot of the asthma studies are actually funded by drug companies. So to expect them to fund a study that's looking at an anti-drug method or a non-drug method is, rather extraordinary. So this may be one reason why more trials aren't happening.
Back in Britain, it's mainly private clinics that have been offering the Buteyko treatment. But one Glasgow GP has been interested enough to try it out alongside more expensive conventional treatments. Dr. Gerald Spence had become frustrated at spending 1/10 of the budget of his inner-city practice on ever more potent asthma drugs without seeing much improvement in his patients. 18 months ago, he began to teach some of them the Buteyko method.
To begin with, I used to think I was absolutely crazy. I couldn't figure out how I was getting myself into this sort of situation. But as time has gone on, I think certainly it's a very useful way of treating asthma and providing asthmatics with a way of controlling their symptoms. And it is so effective that they are able to reduce their medication, and they seem quite comfortable and quite happy about this. Their asthma seems to be under good control.
If Dr. Spence is happy with his patient's experience of Buteyko, what of ours? It's now 3 months since the course, and Alexis comes along to give her verdict. With her, surprisingly, is her mother, who had been strongly against Alexis doing the course.
I didn't go along to the course because I felt it was a waste of time. My mother financed it for Alexis, and my mother is retired, and it cost her quite a bit of money, but I thought she was wasting her money. But Alexis and my mother were determined that they wanted to give it a go, and they went along, and they left the book for me to read, and I just ignored it, and I really thought it was a waste of time.
So where are you now then? Are you a convert?
Yes, absolutely, because she doesn't take anything. And I would not believe that possible. I would have said that that was ridiculous.
And you sustain this how? Just by doing exercises?
Yeah, and I think it helped more closing my mouth at night, because I used to wake up every night coughing and wheezing, but I don't do that anymore either.
It's still very early days, but for a child who has been relying on drugs since she was 1 or 2 years old, to now be off them completely is a giant leap forward.
Campbell Stewart found the daily breathing exercises hard going, but worth it.
They've been really good for the last 3 months. It's a good 50 to 60% better. It's the best winter I've had for how long? 4 or 5 years.
Now, do you put that improvement down to the Buteyko method, or could it have come from something else?
I think it has. I mean, it's the only different thing I've been doing, you know, because I've cut down medication. I'm only on salbutamol inhalers, you know, when they're required, and Flexitide steroid inhaler, 2 puffs in the morning, 2 at night.
Did you ever really think it would do you any good?
No, to be honest with you, I didn't. It surpassed what I thought, because I didn't think any would have happened, to be honest with you. I didn't think it would have made any difference to me.
And what of Donna Gowrie? She's had her ups and downs, but is feeling positive.
Been a lot better. Definitely a lot better. Big difference. Everybody, my whole family, see a big difference in me.
Is that right?
Yeah. Even neighbours.
What do they say?
Just says that they've never seen me looking so good.
I suppose we have to remember that you've been a very severe asthmatic, and, I mean, you were never looking for a miracle cure, were you?
Oh, no, I wasn't looking for a miracle cure. I was just looking for something to help me.
And you got that?
Yeah.
But there's one more point about Buteyko. It could save the rest of us quite a bit of money. Indeed, according to Dr. Spence, it already has.
The simple fact is that in 34 patients, prior to Buteyko, they were costing £15,000 a year for their asthma medication. After Buteyko, they cost £5,000. That's a reduction of 2/3 in their drug bill. If this was extended to the rest of the country, very significant savings could be made.
I do find it surprising that the NHS is prepared to spend hundreds of millions of pounds on asthma drugs every year, and nothing at all investigating an apparently successful treatment like Buteyko. Clearly, Buteyko has some way to go to convince the doubters. That's why further scientific trials and someone to pay for them are so urgently needed to settle the matter. But it has to be said that our 3 patients don't seem to need much convincing. Alexis has joined a synchronised swimming class. Donna has booked her first holiday in years. And Campbell is finally able to pursue an old dream.